All right. So welcome to another episode of Adding Perspective with Josh. I'm Josh.
I'm Aphrodite.
And I'm Emmanuel.
All right. This week, we're going to talk about something real hot and spicy, you know. We're going to talk... It's really not. But we're going to talk about... we're going to talk about how the history with the person... or the lengthy history with the person can really affect, you know, your current decision making when it comes to how you navigate your relationship with that same person. Because sometimes that history that you have with a person, just giving everybody like context, right? If you've been with a person 5 years, 7 years or more, within that 5 years, 7 years, some things probably happen, you know, good and bad, right? And then you had to like forgive that person or try to move past that particular point. But let's just say, right, with this history, that situation comes up again, right? Where you done already talked about this. You done told them, hey, I don't need you to do that particular thing anymore. It happens again. Put you back in that same place. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of different things that can happen with that level of history. And sometimes it makes it very difficult, even though a lot of those situations may have happened years ago, it makes it very difficult for you to sometimes almost build that trust with that person just to make sure that that person is not going to do that same thing. So that's why this conversation is going to be a very interesting conversation, because I think for the most part, you know, we all are kind of maybe affected by that history of the person. So even with that, like, how do you guys think that like history can really just, you know, be a barrier for some people? Like, how do you guys think that?
I mean, it can definitely be a barrier depending on how bad the history is, and how frequent said history has repeated itself. I think those are going to be the two keys that determine how big the barrier is. You know, because naturally as humans, we're going to react and, I guess, you know, respond to the things that we experience. So if this history is continuing to repeat itself, then our future actions are going to be more defensive, you know, because we don't want to be affected the same way that we were when said incident happened the first time, when we lowered our defense and then it happened again. We lowered our defense and it happened. So now at a certain point, you're just going to say, all right, defense is staying up, it's not coming down. There's a barrier here. Yeah, this person is going to do X, Y, and Z because historically that's what's happened. And then I think that after so many times, it's hard to kind of get over that barrier without some kind of extreme intervention, something that's going to try to like clean the slate in a way it hasn't been cleaned before. And then at that point, it cannot happen again, because at that point you can't clean the slate again like you never did before. You know, barrier still goes up. So that's kind of my first take on that, as far as, you know, the barriers and stuff.
Yeah. I just think that some things are just a little bit harder to move past than others, okay? Because if we talking like, you talked to this person last week, and they have a history of like, you know, maybe not putting things, especially if they live with you, not putting things back where they're supposed to go in the house and stuff like that. Then every time you come in the house, things just look more random than when you left it. When you left out this morning, you done told this person, hey, you know, I need this to look a certain kind of way when you get back. But is that something that you really hold on to though? Or is that something like you just kind of let go versus the other side of the equation where it's like this person may have told you, hey, I'm going to this place, but they was really at another, right? Like, is there levels to what you can let go of and what you can't let go of? Like, do you think it's levels to that?
It's definitely levels to it. It's not you putting something in the same place versus you telling me a lie like you hear what you really was somewhere else. It's a different kind of level, because at the end of the day, when you start, lying, that's setting distrust, right? Mm-hmm. So I can't trust what you got going on and what you're talking about, so it's a different type of level. And then if we talked about, okay, so you lied about that particular situation, and like Emmanuel expounded on what Emmanuel said, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna let it ride. We're gonna move on. We're gonna move past it. You keep doing it. At some point, you ain't with the lies no more. You're not with the lies anymore, depending on who you are. And you as that particular individual start moving differently, period. Not just with barriers up, but you move it differently. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna let them. You find your lane. That's what I think. That's what I call it. Like you figure out, okay, this is my lane right here. So we not gonna venture over into the other lane anymore. Only because we already know what that brings. We know it's gonna bring a whole lot of lies or whatever. Instead of just being truthful or transparent about whatever you got going on, But then it also raised the question, like, why did you feel like you had to lie in the first place? Mm-hmm. And so it's definitely different levels. It's not the same unless, some people are just very, very particular about how they want their house. And especially if they've been staying by themselves a long time. And even though y'all might have been dating 4 or 5 years, but y'all decided to move in together, now that conversation will change. And it might be a different little level to that, only because you haven't learned how to like balance each other. So that might be a different level, but the trust is gonna be the biggest when it comes down to, you're not being truthful about what you have going on. If you are in a place where you wasn't where you lied and said you was somewhere else, so it's different levels to that.
Yeah. Because I'm always curious about that. Because I think some people, and this is not everybody, but I think that some people may nitpick too much about certain things, and it's kind of different though too. Because it could be a situation like the house situation, or cooking dinner, or doing something random like that. But sometimes that could conceivably be more outweighed than other more extreme situations, right? And I think that may just be a personal thing or something, but
it's definitely personal. So, it's a personal decision. And you just never know like what that person has experienced to make that feel more important than, maybe them lying to them. Maybe they don't care about you. You know what I'm saying? It might not be the lie that's throwing them off balance. It could be because you in their house, y'all in the house, and you doing something they asking you not to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I know it might seem crazy, or it might seem like, Dad, that's petty. But what we might consider petty is really not petty to the other person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They might be OCD about how the kitchen need to stay clean. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So what, I know somebody like they have to have same matching socks, right? Mm-hmm. You cannot buy them socks without patterns and all. It just gotta be the same plain white socks or brown socks or black socks. Plain. But they so hung on that they probably would take it personal if you bought them a pattern sock. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Versus you telling a lie to them. So it just depends on the person.
Yeah. That's actually pretty interesting too, because it's almost like those people, they need those kind of socks, or do they number the socks? Like this is 1 and 2? Or?
No, they don't number them, but they definitely cannot. It can't have patterns or none of that. It has to be plain, black, white, or brown.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. But they don't number them.
Okay. That's far right there. We put this is 1, this is 2. Some people do that because they don't want to lose their socks, but that's just a whole nother story.
Just you speaking on experience.
You put them in the dryer and stuff. Sometimes one come out, the other one don't. So it's just like
Josh, it sounds like you talking from experience.
Hey, I lose a lot of socks. That's all I can say. That's just like just saying.
Tired all the way, man.
Hey, I mean, shoot, I'm always buying socks. I'm telling you. Shoot. Then my daughters and stuff, they lose all their socks too and stuff like that. And I swear I just bought them a bunch of socks and stuff like that. And then you know what I thought about too? This is kind of random and stuff like that. So they got those trackers, right? The little trackers and stuff like that. I was gonna like attach it to the sock and stuff like that, just make sure the sock. Okay, that's a little random, so I'm not gonna go there.
That's very random.
Definitely. Okay, we could do an episode on sock. Sock okay.
Hey, I know that was a little far, but it's okay. We was going down the sock lane, so I'll just keep it going there. So, but that's the thing about history, I guess, with people though, is do you think that it's actually, and I guess it's a severity thing too, it's possible for people to totally let go of something and judge a situation for the way that it looks currently in a relationship. Do you think that that's 100% possible for people to do that? Because
that's possible.
I'm just saying, because if something happened with that person in your relationship and it wasn't a small thing, it was like, this is real. Like, this is a big thing. Can you totally just be like, let me just throw my hands up, I'll let that slide and not go back to that, right? Like, go back to that in the future, right? Like, is that even possible?
You can not go back to it, but to say that it won't resurface if something same or similar were to happen, I don't think that's possible. Right? You could say, all right, I forgive this person. We reconcile the situation, moving on with life, our relationship. But if something same or similar is to happen again, this could be 10 years down the line. If something same or similar happens, there's no way you're not going to think about this event that happened prior to. I don't think that's possible.
Yeah,
it's triggers. It's triggers. Like, and that's the thing about when you have history with a person and they do those triggers. It's hard to not say, oh, you remember when? It's hard to be like, I'm just speaking personally. Like, I got a little checkbook in my head. Like, I got a little list in my brain. I be like, oh, check that. I'm just being honest. So it's like, I feel like I forgave you. I think I forgave you, but I don't know. That little list pops. It pops back. It be like, oh, that's the same little stuff about 20 years ago. It's like that little list come back, and it's like, oh, okay. And it might be because how it made me feel, my emotion that was tied to it, and whatever else that I had going on at that time. So I'm just saying, from a personal experience, like, I have a little journal, like a little checklist in my mind. I'd be like, oh, you did A, B, C, and D. Okay, check that. Okay, I'm gonna forgive you. We're gonna move on. And you talking about a year or two later down the line, and then it's like, oh, it's almost like you back at it again. Is it good to be like that? Probably not, because it really pushes the relationship backwards too. With that history and stuff. So I guess it'll be something you have to work on and figure out, like, how we're gonna get past the triggers. But then the other person will have to understand that they can't do that no more. Like they can't do it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's wrong though to remember or recollect, but they should be addressed based on the current situation. And the prior situation should be like reference points to say, hey, look, this is now becoming a pattern. This is now becoming more than a one-time happening. Like, do you remember this? But not so much like I don't know. We don't want to hang it over their head like you're a bad person, but we want them to understand that, there was one time where this happened and we wanted to move away from that, but it's now happening again, type thing. From that standpoint, I think it's very fair to remember it, take your notes, because they need to understand that this was something that should never have happened again. You remember the first time it happened. You remember what they told you they would do the next time, that there would not be a next time, whatever that looks like. And how that's something that now is starting to impact you a lot more deeply. So I think it's healthy to be able to recall, but it shouldn't be like something that you always thinking about, regularly when you dealing with a person. I don't think it should be on that level.
Yeah, it shouldn't be on a daily level, because if it's on a daily level, then you might just need to let them go. Because they not gonna, you're not gonna give them the rest. They not gonna be able to live it, you're not gonna allow them to correct it if you consistently and always talking about what they did. You know what I'm saying? It's no correction in it. Mm-hmm. But it's different if they're consistently doing it, But if y'all spoke about it the first time and they said, I will do better, I'm gonna work on it, I won't do it no more, however that conversation went, and you agreed to it, then you should have agreed to leave it right there. You know what I'm saying? And not on an everyday basis bringing it up. Yeah. But when you have them triggers,
what do you do with the trigger?
Triggers ain't no joke. It's like PTSD from the Army.
Hey, sometimes people let triggers run wild, okay? You shouldn't let your triggers run wild, okay? You shouldn't, okay? But sometimes people don't know how to manage their emotions. They don't. I'm telling you, sometimes people don't know how to manage their emotions. Managing your emotions is a very important skill, especially from a relationship standpoint, because most of the things that you talk about, you want to make sure that whatever you bring to your partner, you want to make sure that it stays a conversation instead of being an argument, right? Like, that's the thing. And most times, whenever a person doesn't manage their emotions well, it turns into an argument quick, like real quick. You can say that one word, that one phrase, that one thing that you don't agree with, emotions run wild the whole entire time. And then that's what happens. Nothing gets solved and it turns into a big sweaty argument. It does.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I mean, that's the thing about history though. That's the thing, especially people that's been in relationships like a long time, like with that person, like 10 plus years, probably more than that. That history runs deep, like deep. And when it runs that deep, it makes it very, very, very hard to actually look at a situation, judge that situation without going back through the memory bank of everything that you experienced with that person in the last 10 years, whatever. Like, and I think that's something that most people don't consider, like, especially being in a long-term relationship, that how much you go back through that Rolodex. Like, how many times you go back there and actually look at every one of them situations, and you might not even say nothing about it, right? Like, you might not even bring it up. You might not even cite examples or anything like that. But in your mind, oh, you flipping through it. Like, you going through there. Like, all of it. You are.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine. You got to be definitely emotionally mature.
Oh, yeah.
Enough to address the issue, like you said, address the issue at hand. But sometimes, I mean, a lot of people, no one likes to be in a situation where you got an issue at hand and people go into the history book. Like, nobody likes that.
Because they don't like that conversation. You know?
No, because, I mean, it's really not, well, I'm not going to say every time, but in many cases, it's not absolutely relevant to the issue at hand. Mm-hmm. It's just, it could be relatable, but it isn't the issue at hand. It's kind of just like, yeah.
If it's the same problem, then it's the issue at hand.
If it is the same problem, then but it's still not the issue at hand. It's a precursor. It could be a precursor.
No, it's the issue.
Okay, but this is what people get it confused, right? People, it could be the current issue, but they use that history to cite reasons why they did that current issue, right? So they use
cheat on you with Jasmine.
Did. Oh, you did this. So this is the reason why this happened right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, people do that. Like, if they do something wrong right now, they use the history of what you did, right? Or some of the situations that you did.
So if I did something, basically they gonna blame what I did back when on the issue now. No, that's not how life works.
But people do that. You haven't seen that. You haven't seen people do that. Come on,
I have.
Okay,
That's normal. That's normal.
I have.
Yeah.
That's normal.
And I ain't even gonna lie, I probably done did a couple of times myself, but I did that as a cop out to get up out of the situation. I'm like, well, you did back 5 years ago. And I was just saying, like, do you see how I feel now? It's like a tit for tat, but it ain't cool because really it's manipulation to try to get up out the mess you got going on.
I mean, you say it. That's what you got a long history that people cite examples.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's always going to be something they can go in the history book and pull out.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only because they trying to get the pressure off them. That's what that is.
Oh yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Some people may really be that type of petty though. They might have genuinely just because they got done wrong. Now I got a get out of jail free card. I can go do something. All right. They did this to me. I can do something now. So if they catch me, yeah, you remember when you did that? Yeah, you know. yeah. When you did that? Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sorry, but you know, I did something too, but we both did something. So now we even. We good.
Yeah. I mean, I've been that petty before, so I understand.
But some people take that too far, though, right? Like some people take that too far. Some people do that kind of stuff when it's like, okay, they come home, they got some Zaxby's, but they didn't bring you nothing, and they just sit there, they just eat.
That's too far.
But think about what you would do though. You would go out to like a 5-star dinner, and then don't bring them none, but they had some Zaxby's. You know what I'm saying? Like. You know what I'm saying? That's too far, okay? Like that's far.
According to who?
According to the person eating the Zaxby's.
I'm
just saying. Like, people do that, you know? Dude.
I'm just saying.
Like, you remember when, you know?
People do. People hold on to a lot.
They do. They really do.
And half of it, they don't even really address. They just digest. They just digest it, and then when it's applicable, they'll throw it at you. And I really don't think that's fair at all.
It's not.
And it's not. It's not fair. And it's a form to me, and I might be wrong, but it's a form of manipulation to me. I be like, oh, you just being manipulative, you being petty, and you know what I'm saying? Then my little checklist go off, right? Like, oh, you check that. Got that.
But yeah, all that stuff does create, that history is definitely, you can't unsee it. You can't unexperience it. Like it's something you just have to manage. I think that's what it's about. It's about managing it and
maturity. It's about the maturity too.
Yeah. You can't forget it. You can't unsee it. You just gotta manage it. Put it in its box. Let it stay there and kind of deal with the issue that's at hand.
Yeah, and I think it's like how important it is to you too, like in the relationship, in the history of the relationship. It's the importance of it too. So because a lot of times, like what Josh was saying, well, the Zaxby's, I might think the Zaxby's ain't that important, but the person who got the Zaxby's think it's important, right? So,
I'm just saying, if somebody got that, 5-piece wing meal, something like that, they sit up there eating it, they ain't bring 5-piece. So I'm just saying, like, people hold on to that.
Yeah, they do.
I'm just saying. They do.
It really is about like the managing it, and then maturity, and how important is it really to you and your relationship to think about what it's gonna cause, what kind of issues is it gonna cause? Are you willing to just be like, it's really not that serious for me. I really don't want to go through that, or whatever, to be able to brush it off, and move past it. So it just depends.
Yeah, and I think everybody's got to know you can't fight every battle. Sometimes you gotta pick and choose your battles, right? So if
very wisely.
If Zaxby's is the battle you want to fight, that's fine. That's fine. But some people feel like every single battle has to be fought, and I think that can make things difficult too. Because nobody's perfect,
Right.
And now we're assuming that you expect this person to be perfect. You want to fight every battle.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not gonna win the majority of them. I can tell you that right now. You're not gonna win. You're not gonna win them, okay? Yeah. May think you won that battle right there, but that war, well, no, you didn't win that. Okay, you didn't win it. Okay,
at all.
You didn't win it. Okay, because that's when some people, not everybody, right? That's when some people decide to use sex as a weapon. Okay.
That's an effective weapon now. Okay.
That shouldn't be a weapon though, okay? That should not be a weapon.
That's a very, very effective weapon.
Hey, I'm telling you, like, I heard that too. People should not make that a weapon, okay? Because that totally changes the dynamic of your relationship when you start using your physical intimacy as a way to hurt your partner. That's that's a whole deeper level of just wrong. It is.
Yeah, I can see that.
It is.
I mean, that's a deep conversation within itself.
It is.
It's layers on that.
It's 5, 6, maybe 10 layers to that. Okay,
that's a 10-layer dip.
Yeah. But like you said, that kind of stuff, it happens too, and that's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Mm-hmm. I think it does also affect your trust. Like, sometimes your partner expects you to have actually forgiven them, and they may genuinely be looking to improve or do something better. But when you pull out that history book, it kind of places doubt in their mind that maybe you really never did forgive them, or maybe you never really were able to move on, or, and that can create issues too in the relationship too. If people feel like that, they may be truly remorseful for whatever they did, but then to feel like, that same feeling of distrust or doubt is still there could also damage the relationship too. When you think about some of the history that we might dig up, creating barriers.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That history is just, not gonna say it's easy to get past. It's
at
not.
All. At all.
That's depending on the type of history, but that's the thing about when people kind of sign up for relationships. Sometimes you don't know what you're signing up for. Like you don't.
I don't think you ever know what you're signing up for.
You don't. Like,
not to the full degree.
You hope for the best, and that's what you do. You hope for the best. But you don't know what that relationship is gonna throw at you. And hopefully it doesn't throw something at you that you obviously cannot handle. Like something that's just like, oh my gosh, I can't deal with this.
Right.
Hopefully it's not like that. But that's the thing, that sometimes history just needs to be left in the past.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you plan on having a future with a person, a lot of the history it can't come with you to the future. It can't. Can't come with you.
Well, I think sometimes it comes with a person because they feel like it wasn't truly addressed.
Yes. But you have to consider, though, is that even if it was not addressed correctly then, every time you bring something like that up, especially if it's like future tense stuff like that, your relationship stops. Like it stops. Like it's kind of like the clock stops because you're going back then to actually talk about something that happened, maybe 5 years ago, whatever the case may be. So all those residual memories and all those residual feelings, because it wasn't addressed appropriately, are gonna come back, and you're gonna feel a certain kind of way about it. Like you're gonna feel a certain kind of way, and whether you feel that kind of way for 2 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours, whatever the case may be, your relationship stopped in that moment, and you didn't move forward at all because of something that was not appropriately addressed back then.
But if it's bringing it up right now in the future or the present tense, then why can't it be addressed appropriately this time so the person can leave it where it's at that point?
Yeah, I mean, it can. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's possible for that to happen. But most times, right, when things aren't addressed appropriately from back then or whatever, there was a reason why somebody didn't touch on that then. There's a reason why somebody didn't. And if you bring it up now, it may not turn out the way that you would, want it to turn out. Which means that, again, you stopped your progress at that point because you didn't get the answers that you wanted on something that happened 5 whatever years ago. I mean, I just say it because most times when something isn't addressed appropriately, it ain't people don't always get the answers that they think they go get. Like they don't. You get half answer. You get some of it, right? You get a summary of what happened.
And I think sometimes you gotta keep asking questions, like some people feel like they don't wanna ask the questions that they want the answers to because they bothering the person or, they going too far, but it's worth that versus going months and years with unsettled feelings of uncertainty, doubt, confusion. You just got to get that clarity, I think.
Yeah.
As soon as possible. As soon as possible, you got to get that clarity. If it's real sensitive, maybe your partner may need some time, but you got to get the clarity sooner than later because your relationship might not stop, but it's on slow. At the very least, it's on slow mode because you're going to be a bit more reserved if you're still holding on to some of these feelings, and that's going to be slowing the growth of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, even with history keep coming up, it might be because the other person felt like they just wasn't heard. Not even so much addressed, but sometimes people just want to be heard.
Yeah.
We might not need to address it because I ain't asking you to address it, but I am asking you to acknowledge, to hear what I'm telling you.
Right.
and not come up with your own reasoning why you think this is what it is, when I need for you to understand. Might not even understand, because sometimes people not going to understand, but I need for you to see and to hear what I'm speaking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Yeah. Sometimes that's all it takes to actually move past certain things.
Right. Right.
The acknowledgement portion of it.
Right. Right.
Yeah. The acknowledgement portion is very important. It really is. But I think that, especially kind of to add to that, time and place is everything. Especially when you're talking about anything that is left from the past. It's important to actually address that in the appropriate space. You know, like not randomly bringing something like that up when, you know, a person at work, you know, driving or something like that. Like, hey, I want to talk to you about this. This happened like 5 years ago. Can you tell me this? No, don't do that. Don't do that. No. Mm-mm. So yeah, time and place is everything. That's what I think.
I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah. But keeping an open mind is also good too. Because not everything is inherently negative.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
I think sometimes some people assume negative intent sometimes, like, you know, just assuming that whenever a person is going to come talk to them, it's something about a complaint or something, like it's negative.
And that could be because history has shown it's a negative all the time.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, that's why not assuming negative intent is so important, because people change.
They do.
Yeah, people change. Sometimes people don't give people enough credit for their change. You know, for their portion of their change.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Some people want to see big, massive change.
Mm-hmm.
And a person may be actually trying to, you know, to make that change, but it's not happening as fast as we would like. And that person gets discredited. And that's a huge discourager to someone who's trying, even though it may seem as to us that they're not really trying, because the change isn't happening fast enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've run into that before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are the final notes for this particular episode, right? When it comes to the history with a person, like what are some final best practices for people?
I think one thing for sure is, you know, you gotta be able to isolate that history, put it in a box, manage it accordingly, for sure. Address the issue at hand, you know, as best as you can without involving that history, and then be open to moving forward. And kind of taking each day one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think those are a few good takeaways.
Mm-hmm. Aphrodite, what you think?
Yeah, they being mature, you know, about being mature about the situation, the history of it, communication, you know, communicating appropriately and effectively. So if the history does come up, because it might have had triggers, you know, being able to communicate it effectively where your partner can understand, like, this is what triggered it. And acknowledging it, you know, just an acknowledgement alone could shut the whole part of that history down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It is.
And you don't have to be petty. You can, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to be.
No.
You can be, though, but you ain't gotta be.
It shouldn't be.
Hey, like I said, I think the biggest thing for me is emotional discipline. Being emotionally disciplined.
Yeah.
Because sometimes whenever you're dealing with sensitive subjects like the past or something that a person did to you in the past, that comes with a certain level of anxiety, or it comes with a certain level of things that you feel very deeply connected to that particular instance. So just figuring out when you should have that conversation, how you should have that conversation, and at what point are you ready for that conversation is going to be important. And that's an individual thing. That has absolutely nothing to do with your partner. It has nothing to do. It has a lot to do with you as an individual in making sure that you're ready for that conversation. So, yeah, so you definitely have to be ready for that. So, another great episode of Adding Perspective with Josh. I'm Josh.
I'm Aphrodite.
And I'm Emmanuel.
We out.